Okay, Virgil, it's great to have you back, and great honor for us to talk to you. And I just wanted to start with your childhood. So you were born in Australia in an Italian family. How deep are your Italian roots? Did you speak Italian in your family?
I did. In fact, as you said, my parents were immigrants, so they were new.
Was it first generation?
Yes, so they didn't speak English.
Oh.
It was very difficult for them at first. So when I was born in Australia, we only spoke Italian until I went to school. Therefore, I managed to retain quite a bit of Italian, and I managed quite well when I'm there, but I really only spoke it for the first 5 years of my life.
Oh, yeah.
And then went to school and English took over and that was it.
Oh yeah. So I saw a clinic in Italy where you talk Italian to the guys. And
yeah, I get
Va bene.
Yeah, va bene, sì.
Interesting. And you mentioned once that you had a Russian piano teacher.
Yes. I was only... My father, in fact, wanted me to be a pianist, not drummer.
Uh-huh.
But I wanted to be drummer, so we compromised and we did both.
Oh yeah.
So he took me for piano lessons every week, and I had this, very, very stern Russian teacher from Moscow, I believe he was.
Oh. So it was
he was an immigrant in Australia as well. So I was only 6 years old, and I started classical piano.
So it was your first encounter with Russian culture.
Yes,
as I may say so.
Yes, I was afraid. I was afraid to come here.
Oh, really?
He was very strict, But no, it was great. I'm so glad that my father forced me to play piano because, fast forward to now, it's given me the ability to improvise and play the piano and to write music.
Oh, yeah. Is that true that you played like
Jesus Christ Superstar? I did, in fact, but it was a huge production. It was a Australian production of Jesus Christ Superstar, and it was an arena. So we were in the round. It was, with the biggest Australian rock stars were playing.
Was it in Melbourne?
It was all over Australia. It was a national tour, so we toured.
Oh yeah, okay.
And the...
How old you were back then?
Oh, this was only 1992. So I was about 30... 31?
92.
No, 32.
Okay.
33 at the time. And that was a wonderful show. Yeah, just one of many.
Yeah. I also know that you went to the United States and took some lessons with Mr. Joe Jones.
Philly Joe Jones.
Yeah.
And
how was it? And what exactly did you study at that time?
Well, Philly was fairly casual. I was a huge fan of his. So I saw in the paper in New York that he was playing. And I just, that very night when I saw the advertisement, and I went to see him front row, and it was just, I was only 19, and like I said, he was an idol of mine, so I approached him during their intermission, their break. It was just a jazz club, and he was very gracious, he was really nice to me, and gave me his number, and called him. He lived in Philadelphia, which is not too far from New York, so I would catch the train and he would pick me up from the station in his car. He was just wonderful, and take me home, and a 1 hour lesson would always turn into 3 hours. I only had about 4 lessons with him, and I still have the audio cassettes of the lessons. I must go back and listen to them one day.
So you were back then really into jazz music, like straight ahead type of thing?
Yeah, well, I was into everything.
Oh, really?
Rock, jazz, I loved it all. And Philly was just, to me, just had the most lyrical and smoothest sound, and I loved his playing. So to have the opportunity talk with him and see what he worked through was quite interesting. And of course he had that groundbreaking brush technique, which I was interested in brushes back then. So I went through some of those ideas with him, and he showed me. He was very much into rudimental work. So we did a lot of rudimental. Charles Wilcoxon, that was one of his teachers actually. So, and then he gave me some really good ideas about his concept of ride cymbal swing, and yeah, we just went through some general ideas like that.
I also like him a lot, especially that period with Miles Davis quintet, like walking, steaming, relaxing.
Oh, it's a classic.
That's unbelievable.
Yes.
So how did your taste develop over the years? So you were always into all kinds of stuff, or some periods you were probably digging deeper.
Yeah, well, I was, you know, after this period, I really got into fusion. You know, like, well, actually, no, it was around that same period. You know, from the mid '70s till now, I really got into, you know, fusion music in the '70s. You know, with Return to Forever and Vishnu and all the solo artists and classic recordings. I was. That was pushing the boundaries of the instrument, so it really interested me, you know, and I was always working hard on learning as much as I could in that genre, but at the same time I was also interested in rock, and I was playing. My main gigs in Australia were rock bands.
Oh, you mean the Southern Sons?
Southern Sons, and before that also bands, and, so I was into pop and rock. Therefore, I was into all of it.
Interesting. And how did you come up with an idea of playing doubles with your double bass?
Well, I'd been playing double bass drum from the early days. I became very interested in it from, I guess, the mid-'70s. I was only about 16 when I got I had my first double bass set, and I thought it was quite boring what was going on with double bass. You know, everything was just single stroke rolls, and that's it, and everything you hit. I thought there's got to be more to this. So I started playing syncopated patterns back then. In fact, there's one of my early rock bands called Taze. There's a couple of tracks. I was only 16 when we recorded the record.
Like in the 70s?
In the 70s. Yeah. And I experimented. I started playing some more kind of interesting patterns with the kick drums within the grooves, and it started from there. And I kept trying to develop it, and I always had trouble with speed and endurance. I'm not naturally gifted in terms of speed, so
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah,
I mean, watching you playing
but
now,
it's like well, I've worked on it, and it's all through hard work and effort, but especially with my feet, it came very, very, very hard, and it still does. But double strokes was an experiment. I thought, this is interesting. I wonder how far I can develop it. And I persevered for about a year, just exercising it every day until I got it to the level, more or less, that I am now. And
like playing doubles in the tempo of 200 beats per minute. Yeah.
And I can do that more effectively now than I can do the same tempo with singles. So,
what is the reason why?
Well, because you're kind of using almost one action for the two beats. It's difficult to develop that technique, but once you do, it's easier to sustain for longer periods. And it's a different sound. It has a nicer swing to it. Yeah. It's not as rigid. And singles, I think, are really good for metal, hardcore metal drumming, where it's very rigid and it's every beat is very even. And in fact, with most metal recordings now, it's all triggered and dynamics are totally irrelevant. So because it's all so even, but I like the dynamic in the double bass playing because that gives it a sense of groove. If you take that away, it's like it's just so lacking in feeling and emotion to me. So hopefully, you know, all those metal records, one day they'll revert back to just playing in a more natural. Sometimes I'm subjected to it as well. You know, I play on records where I have no control over the mixes. And when I hear the patterns compared to what I played in my studio, it's totally different. Anyway, that's the nature of the game.
Can you say a few words about the way you're composing music? What comes first? Is it like from, you know, drumming perspective, or you come up with some kind of melody or time signature? Or?
I think it's a holistic approach, meaning that all those things exist simultaneously within me. When I feel music, I'm hearing or imagining some sort of harmony, and simultaneously rhythmic. I mean, because rhythm is such an important part of my life, then of course I'm just naturally hearing that. But at the same time, I usually sit at the piano, so I'm feeling a rhythm. I may start with a bass line, add some harmony to it, see where that takes me. Other times, I'll start with a drum rhythm in my studio and decide, oh, I like this. Let me take it home, go on the piano and see what I can come up with around it. So it's really holistic, you know, I'm kind of working around all these elements and all the possibilities, and you come up with some nice things that way. I'm not particularly married to one system. Yeah. Keep my options open. But very interestingly, my new solo record is about to be finished and come out in the very near, over the summer and months, I would say. I'm very excited by that. It's a very different recording to my last one, which was called In This Life.
Yeah, I know.
And I think it's going to turn a few heads. Very surprising. It's a symphonic record.
Oh, really? With a huge orchestra?
Yes. All composed and orchestrated by myself, and I think it places the drums or the rhythm section, because it's drums and electric bass. No other. And no guitar. There's no other rhythm section instruments. And I think it's probably the most serious work of its kind. And I really wanted to bring drumming in that direction, so put it on the concert stage with an orchestra, so that it's not only some shallow orchestral string background, but it's an integral part. The orchestra becomes an integral part of the exchange between the rhythm section. It's not just about the drums, it's about the drums and the orchestra interacting. And I don't think that's really been done at this level. And
I'm
once
excited. I'll be the first one to buy it.
But I'm excited by it because it's so unique and so different. But it was a big work, a long time coming, and I'm very excited. And I also play all the piano on it.
Oh, really?
And also a solo piano piece. So I wrote a prelude, which I've been wanting to do for a long time, and that will close the record. But there's about four or five really big pieces. One drum concerto and two other big symphonic, or three other symphonic pieces.
Great.
So that's the latest news I have, and I'm looking forward to that coming out in the summer.
Can I ask you? Can I dare to ask you about your Dream Theater audition?
No, I'm sick of it.
I know.
We've all heard it. Everyone's seen the video. What else do you need to know?
I just one little question.
I think my good friend Mike Mangini deserved to get it. I think he's really well suited to the band.
Yeah.
He's
no question.
His approach and.
But first of all, why did you all came? I mean, such a brilliant musicians.
Why did we? What do you mean? What do you mean?
I mean, you, Thomas, Marco, you all came. I mean,
You mean we should have said no to the audition? Is that your thought? You think they should have known? Well, in retrospect, I probably should have said no. I mean, once they said they wanted to record it, they asked us if we would be okay. And I saw that there were names from all over the world. I thought, oh, this might be a little bit of a show, and not necessarily are they serious about all the drummers. But you know, I think they wanted someone to represent different parts of the world, just to make it a very interesting audition process, almost like a little soap opera. But I guess at the time I didn't see it that way. I wasn't thinking of it being such a huge video production. But nevertheless, it's you know, it's what goes on behind the scenes all the time, except you don't see it because you don't get the video production. But all guys are always auditioning for gigs out there in a similar fashion. That's our job. That's what we do. You know, if you're interested in a certain gig, and they're certainly one of the biggest bands in that style of music, that there's some sort of enticement there, of course.
But you know what was kind of weird when John Petrucci, when you asked the band to repeat the coda of some song where you wanted to play like
I don't remember
thing, and the guy was like, I thought he was maybe not getting it.
Oh, I don't think I was actually. You know.
Yeah, it was kind of polite.
Okay,
forget it.
I probably wasn't. Maybe they weren't feeling me either. You know, it's a very different style to Mike Portnoy. Yeah. You know, and I thought perhaps they wanted a new voice in the band, but I discovered later on really they didn't. It was so very important for them to sound the same.
Yeah.
And that's probably the mistake I made. And had I known that, I wouldn't have gone for the audition, because I thought they would have taken that opportunity to welcome a new voice, someone who can contribute, someone who can, you know, really bring something to the table. But they weren't looking for that.
Right.
And I was confused. So, in retrospect, yeah, I probably would have said no to the audition.
And maybe the last question,
Yeah.
because you don't have time. So you compose and play very complex music. So where do you think the fusion goes now? I mean, towards, you just mentioned that you recorded a new album where drums go a new direction, like
yes. When you hear the record, you'll hear where drums are going.
So is that the direction you think the fusion goes?
I don't know. It's not really fusion, this record. It's symphonic.
Yeah.
But the drumming is pretty deep. The rhythms, you've never heard them before. Mm-hmm. And all these nuances, all these things influence the future players. You know, someone will hear something and they'll take it and they'll turn it into something else. Becomes, and so, you know, this process goes on and on and on, and it's happening right now with the new young players. You know, they take ideas that guys like myself and my peers have been playing. It took a long time to get there, and they're starting with these ideas, and it leads on to something else, and this is the process. And I can't tell you where it's going, but all I can say is that while I still have the passion and the energy, it all takes a lot of energy, I will keep trying to contribute to that process. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. And can you say why Russian drummers should go to your camp this
Greece.
fall?
The camp in Greece, of course. They should go because there are some wonderful drummers there. They're going to be challenged. They will feel some pain.
Why?
Because
kind of
drumming
pain?
is painful. Because you need to be challenged both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And drumming is physical, the most physical instrument.
Yes,
So, you know, I think these drum camps are a good chance for the drummer to be really challenged at that top level. And of course, you know, we work with individuals. We have to try and find a good middle ground so that no one feels left out. But by the same token, it's not a party. It's not a vacation on the beach.
No.
It's hard work, and people are paying good money to be. I think they want to be challenged. So I always have some interesting things planned and prepared. I always have notation to give the students so that they can bring it home and understand and remember. Hands-on, very hands-on. So it's not just them sitting in a room listening, because listening is one thing, but when you are participating, then you really get the full experience. I think it's about experience. And then you really take something with you. Otherwise, you probably don't get much from it. But I'm sure there'll be some time for some fun and frivolity as well. So we get a time to be personable and to hang out together and have dinner, and then during the days we work hard. But I think there's a lot of wonderful drummers who will be part of the camp, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Virgil.
Thank you so much.